And these guys are coming up with, brand new arms. You heard the governor of Borno State. I was very, very sad when I listened to him. The guy was begging, actually, for aid to come to him. Because this guy, the military, our own military, according to him, require new arms and ammunition. What does that mean? We'll spend a lot of money on arms and ammunition. So, what is going on?
Indeed, Mr. Makri, that is the question of questions at this time. What is going on? You've mentioned so many of the dynamics in this crisis, but one of the things that, I haven't heard you talk about is the poverty situation. We are getting reports from Borno State that there are people who haven't been receiving salaries. There are people who have been paid between 8 and 15,000 naira. And then whether that is true or not, just that poverty dynamic and how it is a recruitment ground for these terrorist organizations. Do you see any sort of solution? Because if the governor is telling us, this was the last time I heard someone say this, we are losing ground to terrorists, it was many years ago. If in 2025, a governor is saying this again, and then we're seeing violence, it's almost like coordinated violence across the country by these non-state actors, is there a way to rein this in right now? Or have the chickens come back to roost again, and there's nothing we can do about it?
Well, thank you very much. Of course, there are a lot of things we can do about it. If we are very serious about it, we can do a lot. When the governor says we are losing ground, what is he actually saying?
Are we losing territory?
Yes.
Is that what he's saying?
Because when you look at the Boko Haram situation, when they first came, they were trying to form caliphates in the northeast. They were going around, taking over local governments, putting their flags in there, and then, of course, trying to create caliphates. And, of course, the government of Jonathan, remember when they wanted to run an election, and about 7 local governments were taken. And they cannot, because by the INEC rules, if they go ahead and have that election without 7 local governments, then the results are not going to be credible. Everybody must be represented. And what he did was go ahead and get a PMC, a private military contracting company, to flush all of them out, in a very short period. And we had our elections. Now, we have taken over those local governments. We had our elections. We've been going around. Boko Haram was scattered. They were hit and run. They do hit and run now. And right now, you heard what the Shehu of Borno was saying, El Kanemi, that there are 3 local governments that are gone. You can't go there. They've been taken over by Boko Haram. 3 of them. That means we're losing grounds again. That's where the governor is saying that we're losing ground.
I mean, Mr. Makri, I've listened to you talk about this, and I want to be able to get your thoughts on some thought processes out there. Some people actually think this is political in nature. Do you think so?
Yes, I would say that there is a political angle to it. There's for it to persist to this extent, there's a political angle to it.
Well, not necessarily the persistence over the years. What I mean is, as we look forward to 2027, some people have posited that there are political dynamics to the instability you're seeing in this part of the country, like it has some sort of political ramification for 2027.
Well, I don't know if the government is actually waiting for 2027 before they flush them out. Then we can say, oh yeah, the government did very well in doing it. But remember, our territorial integrity is at question right now, and the reputational risk is very, very high. So are we going to allow these people to continue doing what they are doing? Every Nigerian has to feel secured. Why don't we, in fact, move all those soldiers, the troops we have in River State doing emergency state of emergency to Borno State, because that has been, done before and it solved the problem. I think that's why we need a state of emergency right now, and then of course thinking about the bandits in the northwest and north central. I think these are areas that we can do. Then, there is no serious problem going on in River State where we will say, let's send all our troops in there. And we are thinly spread. We don't have a large army that will say, oh, let's use this to, gauge where the problem is coming.
That's a very interesting dynamic that you mentioned there, but I want to stay on that. A state of emergency in Borno?
Yes.
The appointment of a sole administrator?
We've done it before. And this time you don't have to remove the governor, because I think Governor Zulum is doing a fantastic job. He's one of the most serious governors in Nigeria today, because he's been through the thick and thin of it. He can be there. Let the military take over the other kinds of operations in making sure that they are there to clear out these bandits or terrorists or whoever they are. I know that the Nigerian military is a very well-trained, well-equipped too army, because there is not these ragtag guys that we see there that are going to, be dealing with our army that we have to now say, oh, we can't fight them again, let's use a political solution.
When you say political solution, because that's another conversation in this matter. When we say we're looking for a political solution to the terrorist attacks in Borno and in Kebbi and in a lot of the states that we're seeing these things coming up again so disappointingly, what does a political solution mean?
Well, when you want to do a political solution, we can look at what is happening. We can benchmark with what is happening in other areas. What is happening in Ethiopia, for instance, where the Fano militias are, very strong in the Tigray region, and the central government is finding ways of trying to talk with them and then, find a solution to it. If we're talking about Borno, Plateau State, what happened there, I think, a political solution would be to bring all the warring parties together and talk to them properly and get commitments from them. And then, of course, in Borno State, we have tried all kinds of, you hear all these kinetic, non-kinetic, and all those kind of stuff. But that is not solving the problem. So what is the real issue there? You talked of poverty. You talked of poverty, inequality. People are not getting anything from their government or from their states. It is not taking bags of rice or going as palliatives are given to people when they are attacked. How about educating them? Educate these people, because you find out that even our democracy is not going to work very well if people are not well educated, So,
before we wrap up, Mr. Makri, I want to get your thoughts on what the National Security Advisor has been saying. He has said it in 2 places now, and he's always talking about the people. Yesterday, in Plateau State, he said, we have to do this together. The communities have to help us as well. Then when we saw the return of the kidnapped victims yesterday, what the National Security Advisor said was, stop paying. You're enabling bad behavior. Stop paying these people. After you pay, we still have to go and rescue these people. Just your thoughts on that, that thought process from the National Security Advisor, where he's looking at communities and the responsibility that the people have to stop this situation.
Sometimes I get worried when the National Security Advisor will say that, because, there has been an announcement by the president saying that there should be no ransom payment. No ransom payment, but at the same time, ransom is being paid. Just some few days ago, I was reading about some generals who went and wrote in the paper that they actually contributed money to go and release General Shiga, who was taken hostage.
The military debunked it. The military said that was fake news. They said this was not true.
It is fake news. Thank God, because I was very worried. I was very worried if that press statement was correct. You know, so if the military debunked it, thank God, because I cannot foresee a situation where, you know, generals have to go and pay money to release another general. But this is what we are facing. Now, to come back to what the National Security Advisor was saying, we need to. You tell people not to pay ransom. Fine. The United States government does not negotiate with terrorists, and they don't pay anybody. Although sometimes you find out that, you know, by third parties or whatever, things are being done. But if somebody takes, we've still not addressed the issue of kidnapping in Nigeria. We've not. Because if somebody is taken hostage, do we sit down and wait for them to make a call so that we can negotiate and then go and, you know, what is the government department in the police, for instance, that I can call right now if my relative is taken hostage? Who can I call? And what is the response? Will they go ahead and say, okay, don't pay, don't do anything, don't worry, we take over this case and we are going for them, and they go there and bring them out? So you find out that the public is
questions.